Kyiv regional leader Oleksiy Kuleba said Russian forces had intensified fighting in the Kyiv suburbs and a highway leading west and across the capital region. Kindergartens, museums, churches, residential blocks and engineering infrastructure are suffering from the endless firing. And 10 people were while standing in line for bread in the northern city of Chernihiv, the Ukrainian General Prosecutor's Office said. President Joe Biden announces additional security assistance for Ukraine on Thursday. AP Patrick Semansky Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, meanwhile, went before the US Congress via video and, invoking Pearl Harbor and September 11 terrorist attacks, pleaded with America for more weapons and tougher sanctions against Russia, saying, "We need you right now. I call on you to do more." President Joe Biden later announced the US is sending an additional $800 million in military aid to Ukraine, including more anti-aircraft and anti-tank weapons and drones. Putin is inflicting appalling devastation and horror on Ukraine, Biden said on Thursday at the White House. It's god-awful. International pressure against the Kremlin mounted and its isolation deepened as the International Court of Justice, also known as the World Court, ordered Russia to stop attacking Ukraine, though there was little hope it would comply. Also, the 47-nation Council of Europe, the continent's foremost human rights body, expelled Russia. Volodymyr Zelenskyy addresses members of the US Congress virtually. Putin said the operation in Ukraine was unfolding successfully, in strict accordance with pre-approved plans, and he decried Western sanctions against Moscow. He accused the West of trying to squeeze us, to put pressure on us, to turn us into a weak, dependent country. Ceasefire talks continue, but with Moscow's ground advance on the Ukrainian capital stalled, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said a neutral military status for Ukraine was being seriously discussed by the two sides, while Zelenskyy said Russia's demands for ending the war were becoming more realistic. Hopes for diplomatic progress to end the war rose after Zelenskyy acknowledged in the most explicit terms, yet that Ukraine is unlikely to realize its goal of joining NATO. Putin has long depicted Ukraine's NATO aspirations as a threat to Russia. Ukrainian refugees get on a transfer bus at the Warsaw Centralna train station in Poland. AP photo Czarek Sokolovsky, Russia's chief negotiator, Vladimir Medinsky, said the sides were discussing a possible compromise for a Ukraine with a smaller, non-aligned military. Prospects for a diplomatic breakthrough were highly uncertain, however, given the gulf between Ukraine's demand that the invading forces withdraw completely and Russia's suspected aim of replacing Kyiv's westward-looking government with a pro-Moscow regime. At least 700 civilians. The fighting has sent more than 3 million people fleeing Ukraine, by the United Nations estimate. The UN reported that over 700 civilians have been confirmed, but that the real number is higher. Ukrainian military servicemen fire salutes during the funeral of their comrades on Wednesday. AP photo Bernard Armang in going before Congress, Zelenskyy said that Russia has turned the Ukrainian sky into a source of for thousands of people. But Biden has resisted Zelenskyy's requests to send warplanes to Ukraine or establish a no-fly zone over the country because of the danger of triggering war between the US and Russia. Loading NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg has also ruled out any role for the military organization in setting up and policing a no-fly zone over Ukraine. Nowhere has suffered more than Mariupol, where local officials say missile strikes and shelling have more than 2,300 people. The southern city, 430,000, has been under attack for almost all of the 3-week war in a siege that has left people struggling for food, water, heat and medicine. Bodies have been buried in trenches in Mariupol, and more corpses lay in the streets and in a hospital basement. Nearly 30,000 people managed to escape the city on Tuesday in thousands of vehicles by way of a humanitarian corridor, city officials said. Loading, but with humanitarian aid unable to get in amid the constant ardment, people burned scraps of furniture to warm their hands and cook the little food still available. Russia launches cases over false information. Russian law enforcement has announced the first known criminal cases against people posting what is deemed to be false information about the war in Ukraine. The investigative committee listed 3 suspects, including Veronika Bolotsakovskaya, who is a Russian-language cookbook author and popular blogger living abroad.